watching something a little different, which can be good or maybe not. This is not DSP. This is not Dark Side Phil, but it does involve DSP. This is a furry who has decided to try and form a defense for Dark Side Phil. And I did try to keep spoiler free. This dropped yesterday, and I was not here yesterday, or was not here the day it came out. So I didn't have a chance to react to it, and a bunch of people already did. That's a little late to the party, but we'll give it a shot. I have I've seen a couple things from like X and whatnot reactions. I'll keep those opinions to myself. We're going to kind of go into it fresh, clean, good faith, all that, and see where it goes. So this is Time Lear G. So already the name smacks a little bit of kind of weird, but this is not a new account, so at least not that I saw. So maybe not. But let's go right into it. I did skip the first part where they like talked about kiwi farms and locale culture. I'm like, we know. If you're watching a Dark Side Phil video, you know what a locale is. Or at the very least, like, you should be exposed to the concept. So we're going to go right into the defense of Dark Side Phil. So little furry versus furry, detractor versus dent. Let's see what happens, and let's go.
Just want to get some lulz. Wanted to bring this up because this video is about DSP, Dark Side Phil. And he has been a Let's Player for an absurdly long time, a streamer for an absurdly long time. I think the first videos I saw of him were around 2008 when he was that when he was playing, I believe it was either Fallout 3 or Fallout New Vegas. It's been so long now that I haven't, my memory is kind of fuzzy in regards to that. I used
because he's a furry. His mind's fuzzy. All right, I gotta stop doing that.
To watch
I'm gonna get copyright infringement if I keep doing that. Sorry guys, if you see this.
a whole bunch of other YouTubers at the time, like the Creatures. Those guys were my favorite, honestly. But aside from that, I'm just gonna be focusing on DSP, like I said. I think the hatred towards this person is so overblown and so unjustified that I felt the need to say it. I just have to say it. He just sits there and he streams, It doesn't matter that he begs for money. Who doesn't need money in this day and age? I'm not a material person. I'm not a materialistic person. I am very spiritual. But everybody needs money to survive. And going out of your way to insult him for that is wrong. It's, there's no necessity to do that. It's not.
All right. Already it sounds like they're coming from kind of a place of ignorance. And not like ignorance like, hey, they're stupid, but like it's already smacking of either they don't follow or they kind of like came in and maybe read the cliff notes. Because the reason why people hate Dark Side Phil so much isn't just that he begs for money. That's what makes it funny. It's because he uses emotional manipulation tactics and oftentimes preys on more vulnerable people, allegedly, and that's where it comes from. So already it's not like if you're not like you're not a lore master of DSP, you could miss that. So I'm still on the ropes of what my opinion is. It's only been a minute, but already like the reason people hate Phil so much is because he's kind of a cult leader. Like he's literally, he employs emotional manipulation tactics, and you can look him up. Like there's separating the audience. There's trying to everyone's wrong and I'm right, and don't listen to thine lying ears or eyes. It's a lot of that. That's where people, and he's just an abrasive asshole too. Let's just say he's an abrasive asshole. Zurin says, asking for memberships or subscription is normal. Begging for extra like tips and donations is not normal. Right, like the over asking too is rough. And again, that just makes it cringe. My personal grievance against DSP is the whole emotional manipulation. But the begging is really cringe. Like Zern said, it's not a call to action. A call to action is just fine. A call to action is once or twice saying, hey guys, by the way, I have this goal. I'm trying to do this thing. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Every fucking YouTuber says, like and subscribe. But the amount of times he does it is unnatural to the point of bizarre. So let's keep
Not
going.
making him work harder. It's not making him improve himself.
Because he won't.
You're going at him for no reason. You're better off spending your time elsewhere. He doesn't care for all of the negative comments. If anything, you're actually just helping him in the algorithm if you're actually just commenting in his comment section and giving him all this attention. And by the way, when you actually comment something negative to him and he actually gives you the reaction that you're so desperately desiring, again, you're just going to clip that and give him more attention. You're going to say, oh, look, haha, Dark Side Phil, look, he fell for the bait. He took the bait. He's laughing at it. He's getting angry about it.
Okay.
And I get it. Maybe you have a channel that's monetized and you're making money from that.
Okay, this is a lot of this is a DSP cope. This is a DSP-ism of oh, the detractors are just doing it for the money. No, we're doing it because we don't like him. And I personally would love to see him no longer on the internet. That would be my personal. I know a lot of detractors are, they want to keep him on, they want to keep him suffering, they want all that. I would be more than happy that this man gets off the internet so that he never hurts another person. Because there are people being hurt by Darkside Phil. There are people that he preys on as a predator. It's a monetary predator. He's taking their money and emotionally manipulating them, in my opinion, allegedly. And that is where a lot of viscera comes from. Back in the day, people did it because they hated him. There was no monetization. It's kind of a more recent thing from what I've seen. And if I can make a couple bucks off it, yeah, okay, that's cool. If I'm going to get a cake and they're like, hey, would you like some ice cream for the cake? I'm not going to be like, no, I don't want that ice cream. I'm like, hell yeah, give me some ice cream on that cake. If I'm getting offered ice cream on my cake, I'm going to take the ice cream for the cake, motherfucker. So, but monetization is such a small part of it. Most DSP detractors are making a couple bucks, 20, 30 bucks. Some might be making a couple hundred. But that's a real DSP cope. And then the other part where it's, oh, you're just giving them attention. You're just giving them attention. See, I used to think that way too. There's a reason I did not do this for the longest time, even though I really want to get out the word of this to make sure other furries, especially, but other people in general did not fall into DSP's trap, is that I could see that and be like, hey, look, he's a cult leader. Don't fall for the cult leader, But the thing is, first of all, DSP is a cottage industry of just content. People who want to make stuff to laugh at and things like that. So there is that. He is right in that regard. As far as clips and content and stuff like that, people love it. And second of all, it's almost more dangerous not to point it out than it is to point it out. He's saying, oh, you're just giving him attention and he gets more popular. That's true, but he's also a toxic, raging asshole. And he is boring as fuck. So the amount of people exposed to DSP, if they're not just outright, oh, I'm done, I don't want to see this, the people who are drawn into the vortex, 99 times out of 100, they're going to become a detractor. 99 times out of 100, especially if it's through a detractor channel. Poofy Hooey says people going on bankrupt for DSP, right? There's a guy who had 3 or 4 bankruptcies for DSP. Zern says, I think he's trying to tell people not to hate watch or hate comment. It helps Phil more than hurts Phil. However, I think he's using it as a cover. People who don't hate watch might fall for that and think this dude is being reasonable, but I think it's done in bad faith. I think so too. Like I said, it's a DSP cope. That it's a very common thing DSP says all the time. And he's using it in a different perspective from an outsider opinion, but it's got the same weight. He's trying to say why, basically do something better with your life. Don't you're wasting your time, you're wasting your breath. Do something different because this is not worth it or whatever. But that first of all, people do what they want to do, so there's that, and second of all, it is almost a public service to make sure that Phil can't, gain more people that he can just suck the life out of. Because he does. He's a vampire. He just sucks the life and money out of people who are more vulnerable to that kind of stuff. So, again, is he rage baiting? I don't know. Is he a DSP Dent? It's out to limit. We'll keep going.
But again, you're also helping him in that manner. I know in the past he's supposedly allegedly tried to take down other people's videos. This was when he first started. People started making "This is how you don't play," right?
Yeah.
People went out of their way to film him and take his recordings and edit it, which I have no problem with. Same with my own videos. If you want to take my own videos and edit them into a transformative work, you can go ahead and do that. You are absolutely free to do so.
Sweet. Thanks for the permission.
I personally will not copyright claim anything, but this was in the past.
Well, I hope not. That would make you kind of a bitch, but anyway, let's keep going.
He obviously does not do that anymore, as far as I'm aware. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't do that anymore because I think he realized at this point that, there's been this joke going around that he's outliving every other YouTuber, every other, quote unquote content creator. I really don't like the phrase content creator. That is very corporate. But DSP has, successfully survived the what happens to a whole lot of other people online, video makers, artists. A lot of people just go crazy after a while of being on the internet, and he's survived it. He is still surviving, and he's gonna survive permanently. Like
well, I think the gout might get him before that, but I did want, and Knight brought it up, and I want to touch back on that, where Knight says the only reason DSP doesn't go after people for copyright, it's too much like work. There's actually kind of a different reason, in my opinion, and it could be that too, but he did used to do it. It's just that copyright striking, especially when it's like kind of that vindictive copyright striking, is a bitch move. Like you're just, especially if it's transformative work. If someone's just ripping, like there are certain detractors that do that, but if someone's taking the time to transform and then you copyright strike, it's in the YouTube community, is kind of considered a bitch move, at least from what I've seen. So the other thing is DSP knows that if he copyright strikes someone, he has a whole like cottage industry of people that are gonna hit him back. If he starts going after people, people are going to go after him, especially if he does it like in a false manner with false pretenses. If he starts doing that, people are just absolutely, first of all, he's going to lose whatever teeny tiny amount of like respect he has, which is not much. And the second thing is, he knows it'd be like a nuclear war solution, and that's for a lot of content creators, in YouTube. Honestly, like if you start throwing that kind of stuff, they could throw it back. It could get ugly. Most people think it's kind of a dick move, especially. So he doesn't do it as a matter of self-preservation. It's not like he learned something. It's just he knows that he will get it about 150 times worse than he can get it. In my opinion. Zern also brings up, surviving isn't living, surviving isn't thriving. Surviving is a bare minimum, and Phil is barely doing that. That was actually, I was going to bring that up next. Is Phil is a cockroach, but who wants to be a cockroach? Who wants to just survive on this platform? I would love to, like, it's a thriving experience. It's, I want to, get big for different reasons. Entertainment. I love to entertain people. Money. People want to be huge, like have, videos that go viral and get them a whole bunch of money, um, clout, or fame, or just influence, stuff like that. People do it for different reasons. Phil just does it because he doesn't know how to do anything else. Phil is trapped. It's not that he's, doing well in this environment and he's, beating all the trolls and detractors and other channels. He literally is in a prison of his own creation. He cannot escape what he has made for himself because he doesn't know how to do anything else. There's where the desperation comes from. Like Knight says, quote 7-9, survival is insufficient. If you're on YouTube and your objective is survive, you have fucked up, in my opinion. You have definitely fucked up. You should be, this is a passion thing. Like, you should be doing this for the love of the game, or because, you care about your community. Phil does not care about his community. Phil does not have passion for video games anymore. Phil just wants a magic potion on YouTube to get as much money as possible. And then, because he has a lot of addictive personality disorders, in my opinion, and a lot of other bad habits, he will never leave. He will never escape because he never saves. He doesn't have any retirement. He doesn't put anything towards any assets. He is literally trapped in that cycle forever until he decides one day to stop, which will be never, because that will require willpower. And we all know Darkside Phil does not have willpower.
I don't think anything can bring him down. He survived that one situation where he made a mistake on stream, and he was trying to deny it at first, but he's a good guy. Honestly, Darkside Phil,
he's objectively not a good guy. Like, that one we're going to vehemently oppose on that one. Phil is not a good person. Phil is a selfish, narcissistic asshole who basically has found a way to leech off of a select group of people, and does so for, like a vampire. He is very much like a vampire. Knight says Phil will literally die before he gives up the grift. Yeah, I've called it. One day he will die in that chair. And that will be the end of the legacy of Darkside Phil. He might be on stream, he might not be. But my money is that one day Darkside Phil will be found dead in that chair. And that's just and that's because he's trapped. He can't get out of it.
I would even say amazing. Maybe that's going a little bit too far in your opinion, but
that's a little rage. Like that. I don't even know if Dents that call him amazing. Like, ooh, you may have tipped your hand a little too far there, Line Tier, or Time Lear, or whatever the fuck. That was that's a little telling. That's a little bit of a tell. Let's keep going, though.
He took it on the chin, and he said, he had a laugh about it. He was joking about what happened on the stream all those years ago. Yeah, it'll go down in history, yeah, but you know what? That's him going down in history. It's not that specific moment. It's that's what I think about all those negative videos directed towards him. You are helping his legacy. And I don't even think he needs help with that. He does have a legacy of his own. He's created how many videos on it? How many?
You know who else has a legacy? Hitler. I wouldn't want that one though. Like having a legacy, that is a very thin veneer of which to put on a mask. Like, oh, he's going to have a legacy. Not all legacies are good legacies. And I forget who said it, but they said it was very poignant, where the legacy of Phil will be seen through the lens of his detractors. Because the detractors control the narrative. And Phil's legacy is a begging, narcissistic, brokey bum who is a toxic fuck, salty as all get out, and the worst game player on the internet. Like, it's kind of like the whole, like, there's a difference between famous and infamous. Like, it's the same thing. So Yeah, that's not a good argument. That's a terrible argument to have for this. Oh, it's just bad. It's not good. Um, Zarian says not even sure he counts as a survivor. He's a straggler left behind, struggling to cling on for dear life, continuously failing to adapt. Yeah, this man adapts about as well as a rock. And Zuri says, how can May 1st be his legacy, but not what he did on May 1st? We just don't remember random people without remembering what they did. Yeah, usually when you're remembered for something, you know? Like it's not just like, oh, you remember Aristotle? And it's like, yeah, he was a cool guy. No, it's like, oh, it's Aristotle, one of the greatest philosophers of his age. Like, there's always a thing after that. There's always a qualifier, as it were. It's not just, hey, remember Darkside Phil? It's like, oh yeah, I remember that guy. Like, no, it's gonna be like, hey, remember Darkside Phil? It's like, yeah, the guy who got caught masturbating on camera. Like, that's gonna be it. And that's all his legacy will probably be, in all honesty. It'll be in a book of lol cows, with Darkside Phil being the world's, like, the king of the beggars, and also the May 1st burst.
Many Let's Plays. He's I think he's almost has the same amount of videos as Seamus does, which is absolutely, that's incredible. That is an achievement right there. And people try to say how really bad he is at video games.
He is.
And I think what people are missing out here is, you know what, I'm getting older, Phil is getting older, and we're all getting older here, and I started noticing my own gameplay is actually getting worse the more I age. I'm only 28 right now. I'm pretty young, and that's it's just, well, that could be due to my health reasons as well. But besides the point. We're all getting older here. You can't expect someone to play and do good, especially when they're live streaming. I think what a lot of people don't understand is when you're actually streaming, it's like it's 100% increase of this is just my own opinion here. 100%. There's no statistics for this. Obviously, it's just something I made up.
God damn, I thought I was long-winded. I'm just gonna make this comment because otherwise I'm gonna forget by the time he's finished with his fucking statement. The person who brings up the gameplay the most is Phil. Phil is the one, the greatest enemy when it comes to like the whole gameplay thing is Phil, because he believes he is the greatest thing to happen to gaming. He can pick up a controller and play any game at a professional level. Now, granted, that was a decade ago. So, but if you ever watch him play or listen to him play, the game dropped my inputs. The game dropped like even now he thinks that he is God's gift to gaming. He is not. And that's where a lot of that disconnect comes from. That's where a lot of the people saying, oh, hey, you suck at games. It's because, one, it gets a reaction. Because, like, oh, I don't suck at games. It's the fucking, the gamepad. It's the lag. It's, input lag. It's the rollback netcode. And second of all, yeah, if he would acknowledge he's getting older, then they probably wouldn't like, oh yeah, no, I'm, oh man, getting older, stuff like that. Knight says, okay, dude, I've streamed games that does not affect my gameplay. And I will give him a little bit on that because, well, and not for Phil, because Phil doesn't fucking react with he doesn't react with his chat except for like when he's paused the game and looking like for how to play the game. Also, his chat handholds him for every fucking game he ever plays. So there's that. But, if he was actually a good streamer, like, I've played games and I've looked at the chat and then I've died because I was looking at the chat. I was seeing what the chat was doing. I can give a little leeway for that, but at the same time, he locks in and he still sucks. So I can't even give him that one. Zergan says zero good faith and no points to actually defend. Lots of hot air and fluff to fill out the argument. What? Fill out the argument? Whoa. Okay, I gotta stop. Alright. But yeah. And Poofy, he says, like him dying the first enemy in the Goldeneye at 007, right? Now, some of that's performative, but a lot of the times he's just so, and it's not just his age, it's his mental health, it's the fact that he drinks a lot, allegedly, you know. And Zurian says after 20 years a normal person would have adapted, right? I will never probably come up here. I'm 40, by the way. Like, I'm 4 years old. I am never going to come up here and be like, I'm going to be the top one game, like, speed runner for this game or that game, or the top content. No, I know that my prime gaming years are probably ahead of me. I play for fun, you know. It's just it is kind of a bad faith argument in that regard. It's he's trying to say like everyone ages. Like, yeah, but Phil really hammers on the fact that like it's not him. He does nothing wrong. He does everything right according to him. It's never he dies. The game killed him. He didn't die. The lag killed him. If he just would admit that he died every more than once a stream, he would probably do better. Plus, he was objectively bad at the start of his career, so like age, yeah.
But when you're live streaming, you are in a completely different mindset. You are not paying attention. You're trying to read the chat. You're trying to focus on the game.
He doesn't,
and
though.
Talk at the same time. The talking is the important part. Now, I don't blame the public.
He doesn't, though. He doesn't talk to his chat. He pauses the game and then he begs, and that's it. Or he'll point out, oh, look, that's a rock. That takes about a fourth of a brain cell in order to like put out there. So that's rejected. I'm going to crumple that one right up and throw it right out the fucking window. Like, sorry, it's just that's how it is.
For saying, haha, look how bad he's doing. I don't blame the public at all for that, because a lot of people don't stream, and I'm not saying they should either. I'm just simply saying that, they can do whatever they want. I'm just saying, you can stream, you can't stream, you said whatever. Do whatever you want. I'm not trying to tell you what you can and can't do, but when you're actually...
This is just a personal point, but this whole like, oh, like whatever, do you what you like this non sequiturs. If you're putting up like a defense argument for someone, fucking don't. Like, you gotta stop doing that. Like, if this is a serious thing, the whole like, oh, by the way, anyone can do what? No, just stick to the fucking concept that you're trying to put out there. Like, don't go on these weird things. It's very derailing.
Sitting there and talking and trying to play the game at the same time, it's completely different from when you're sitting alone in your room, just looking at your monitor,
right,
looking at your TV, your CRT.
Also, the looping, it's not helping as well. Like, you asked and answered, please move on. Move on, please. Objection, asked and answered, please get to the next fucking point.
Depending on what game you're playing. And it's a completely different skill set that you have. When you're alone sitting in your room, you're going to play very well. You're going to play absurdly well, at least most of the time. And when you're actually streaming there, you can't play for any, like, it is so bad, and I say the dumbest things on stream as well when I don't intend to.
He say he supports DSP, so I can believe this.
A lot of lack of context with a lot of DSP clips as well. And hey, there's a lot of them with context that still look pretty bad, to be fair. All right. We all make mistakes, but at the end of the day, when you're sitting there trying to read chat, when you're trying to talk at the same time and play a game, there was this one recent clip of him playing the new Resident Evil game. I think it was called Resident Evil Requiem. When he's sitting there playing that, there was an enemy that's coming out of the ground or something and trying to rush after him. I haven't played the RE games a whole bunch, by the way. I think I was around 5 when I actually tried to play.
Oh my god,
RE2.
Get the fuck on with it, my dude.
With the tank controls and everything, I was just not having a good time. I remembered the intro where, tell me if I have the wrong game here, but there's like a zombie crawling on the ground, and, it's trying to bite at your ankles, and you're supposed to, like, aim down, get them. I was having a bad time there. I was so young.
Let's go.
Later on GameCube, when Resident Evil 4 came out, I believe.
I am here to talk about Dark Side Phil. I don't want to hear about this fucker's, like, come on, man. Like, let's go. It's already too long. Let's pick it up here. Pick up the pace. Like, oh, actually, Poofy, yeah, we're going to 2x the personal anecdotes here, because I could not give any less of a fuck if I tried.
I played that for a little bit, but I have started to get into the RE games more recently, but anyway, that's aside the point. I just wanted to point out my history with it in case anyone's like, this creature coming out of the ground is actually this character. It's like, okay, I didn't play the series too much anyway. But there's this creature coming out of the ground. He's trying to rush after Phil, and you have the modern yellow paint kind of stuff appearing on the screen where it says press RT to shoot.
Which, by the way, Phil is directly responsible for yellow paint in video games, which has been pointed at as one of the potential contributors of the degradation of games. So, just at that.
And he's like, shoot what? He's like looking around. And that's one of those things, right? He could have just obviously just not been paying attention. And it looks ridiculous to everybody. And other streamers do this as well, by the way. It's just simply due to the fact it's DSP, Dark Side Phil. Just simply due to the fact it's him. That's why people pointed out for him specifically and not other YouTubers, not other streamers, not other, creators. It's just, that's the reason for it.
No, the reason why people point it out is because Darkside Phil will then seethe and just fucking grind his teeth, and a lot of people find that to be hilarious. And again, he takes it so seriously. A lot of the other streamers he's probably talking about will probably brush it off. It's like, oh, where did that prompt come from? Like, oh, or I get a thing from chat. It's like, oh, there was a prompt there? Oh, man, I better find my glasses or something. They make a joke about it. But Phil is such a fucking egotistical asshole that he sees every time someone brings it up. And if you don't believe me, ask him about bananas and denim. I rest my case. Zern says they need all the frivolous dialogue because there's no good argument for Phil to fill out the argument and distract from the lack of good defensive play. Yeah, oh yeah. No, it's that's why I don't like people when they put non sequiturs in defensive and stuff like in defense. If this was just like what I think about Darkside Phil, I would be a little more lenient, but it's like in defense of Darkside Phil. Like I was expecting a diatribe, kind of like something more put together. This is a very, it's very fluffy, I guess, as a furry, but it's not good. It's not good. It's just not a good argument for, especially against people who would actually know about the lore of Darkside Phil. It's, anyone who can argue against this, and maybe it is aimed for people who have no idea, but that's also kind of that's a skeevy thing to do, and it's the reason why I'm here. Haha, protecting furries from Darkside Phil. It's why I do this, because arguments like this where people come in, it's like, oh, Phil's not such a bad guy, and then they might catch Phil on a good day where he got $150 and he's actually just kind of being his normal spastic self. But yeah, it really, I don't know if it's rage baiting yet, or if it's there's a couple of points where it's like, maybe, but as far as just a good defense argument, it's fallen way fucking short.
It's just simply due to the fact that you don't see anybody pointing this out with anybody else. It's
people hold on, stop the presses. People point out other streamers' shit all the fucking time. There is an entire Reddit called Livestream Fails. There are entire groups dedicated to certain streamers, not just Phil. That's why the whole subsect of lolcows exist. The whole oh no one does it to anyone else other than Darkside Phil. Bitch, I have people do it to me. And I have 8 people in my chat, and they actually like me. And they give me shit all the time. You think that the streaming community doesn't get, their audience does, for streamers, the audience doesn't, rag on them if they make a mistake? It's just Phil is extra fucking salty, so he gets extra fucking attention.
With my own streams as well. I sometimes say things.
Yeah, Zern just said it's half the reason I show up. He's one of my fucking moderators. Like, come on, man. Like, that's part of the game, man. That's why Phil sucks so bad, is because he can't handle that. He needs a whole group of people who kiss his ass every 5 seconds. He doesn't want anyone to challenge him. He doesn't want anyone to take the piss from him. Like, if this man actually joked around with his audience, he might actually be a decent streamer. But he can't, so he's not. Knight says it's 75% of the reason he shows up. Ban him. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Things that don't make any sense in terms of the game because I'm simply just not paying attention to the game sometimes. You know, I'll say something that's happening right in front of me and I'm like, oh, I didn't see that.
Okay.
That's happened so many times to me. And people don't point it out because, you know, I'm not DSP.
Or they want to be nice, or they don't care.
I guess oh, by the way, when I was talking about Kiwi Farms before, you know, I know they have their own slang term for those who actually try to get involved in other people's lives. I actually forgot what that term actually is. But
detractors.
You know, sometimes it's not people that are on there that go out and do this stuff. Like I said, not all users go after others on there.
Why are we suddenly on fucking Kiwi Farms? Like, this is getting, like, does he have, like, is this a vehicle for going against Kiwi? The next 5 minutes had better not just be talking about Kiwi Farms. Otherwise, I'm going to be very upsetty spaghetti. If this was just a vehicle for, like, his actual seed against, like, Kiwi Farms or whatever.
Thankfully. You know, it's not everybody on that platform. There's
Okay,
some, like I said, there's some good people on Kiwi Farms, but there's this group of people that it's this group, which is, I don't think they're associated with Kiwi Farms. They didn't start there. I could be wrong on that. I apologize if I am. If I have some information correct here, feel free to correct me. But there was this one group who I'm not going to name who made it their entire purpose. Their entire purpose was to just ridicule and criticize, supposedly criticize DSP, you know, accusing DSP of doing a whole bunch of stuff allegedly. And, you know, I used to watch them until they had a falling out where there was a lot of allegations going around about them. I'm not a...
So he used to be a DSP detractor? I know what group he's talking about. I'm just going to get to the end before I go into the lore of it, as he should have done in his argument.
A fan of internet drama, but that sounded like some pretty bad stuff. And it turns out there was quite a few people in that group that were doing pretty bad things. One of their members supposedly passed away, and I believe, allegedly, supposedly, one of the leaders of that group said something after one of their members passed away, sadly, from cancer, like blaming it on them for the person passed. Like, they blamed it on the person who passed away.
Okay, this is just fucking useless, too. Okay, so he's talking about the Sons of Kojima. The Sons of Kojima was a group, an anti-Phil group, and it was, I think, I don't know when, 5-6 years ago. It was before my time, but a lot I saw it in the June the King documentary. If you want to know more about like this group, I particularly glazed over that section because I didn't really care. But the Sons of, like, a lot of people, like, for the Sons of Kojima, like, a lot of people even think that they did go too far. You know, a lot of like the modern day detractors, which I don't believe that group exists anymore. So, you know, his whole argument of like, hey man, there was this group that it was like 8 years ago did bad things. Like, yeah, no, a lot of people agree. That doesn't make Phil any less of an asshole. Like, you know, I myself, like, if the allegations are true, you know, and if they did do doxing or swatting or death threat, like, those are things you do not do. Like, that you don't do those. That's not, like, in the realm of the internet, even in what they call, like, internet blood sports, like, that is considered foul. Like, you don't involve people's, like, real lives in that kind of stuff. At least you shouldn't. But, you know, there are quite a few that thought the Sons of Kojima did go too far. So, but what I'm, like, and again, I'm going to rag on them a little bit because they put themselves in the spotlight, so they deserve to get the critiques from putting themselves there. I think you should have been the one to say this, you know? He should have been the one to bring up, like, it was the Sons of Kojima, because it wasn't like a hate group that burned down Phil's house. There was some doxing, apparently. One of them, I think that one of them did the bank leaks. This is a lot of lore, though. I'm not going to go all into it. But if you want to, like, shore up your argument, like, oh, Phil's been victimized before and stuff like that, you should have brought up the whole Sons of Kojima thing and what happened there. Instead of this weird diatribe of like, oh, there's this group and I watched them, but they had drama and one of them died of cancer. And like, this is not an argument. This is a story. Like, if I wanted that, I would go back and watch June the King because he did it better. It's a weird, it's not a defense. It's more of a cope. This is a cope.
Which,
a very fluffy cope.
If that's actually true, which I don't know if it is, which it's just such a terrible thing to say and do. And obviously, like I said in the last video, I'm not one to be surprised by this stuff. I've been on the internet for a long time, in the Wild West days of the internet, but it's just terrible. At the end of the day, it's just a lot of things that this group did was very questionable. They tried to make themselves seem so morally correct over DSP, where to the point they actually now they could have done this out of their own goodwill, but they wrote their own name on they donated to have a well put into Africa, a water well supposedly, and they supposedly put their own name on it and posted it all over social media, allegedly, supposedly, just to try to I guess try to get one over on Phil, supposedly, allegedly.
Stop saying supposedly, allegedly. Like, like you only need to say one or the other, unless you're making a joke of it. Like, but so who cares? They donated a well. Like, oh, they're trying to be morally superior. So does every other fucking group. Like, this is not like an argument for, and again, they're fixating on one group of detractors that has been debunked for like half a decade by this point. I think at least half a decade, maybe even a decade. The Sons of Kojima are so old news. They're just a footnote in the June the King documentary. And Phil is a douchebag now. So he has no excuse. Like, I would say, in all honesty, the detractors' fear for Darkside Phil has actually decreased in intensity since the Sons of Kojima era. There are more of them. There are a lot more than there were before. But as far as like how far people will go, it's way less, which is a good thing. Again, doxing, swatting, all that stuff is bad. We all agree it's bad. Knight says you can't control what people do to you, but you do control how you react. Phil has chosen to react with hate and disinterest in being a better person. And that's exactly it. 95% of Phil's problems could be solved if he would just brush it off. If you just brush it off, or if you would just be not an asshole, like, he would be golden. Hell, even if he was just one of those two things, he could probably increase his audience or whatnot. But he's incapable of it, because the man has nothing but hate in his heart. He's a victim of his own devices. Knight says, also, I love how he talks about the Wild West days of the internet as if we are still in it. Also, this bitch is 28. Like, I'm 40. Like, I was actually there when the internet was, like, coming about. Like, so, but, that's just a funny little thing. In certain sense, occasionally bad people get something right. Does it make him good, or people who agree with that singular point bad? Phil can be a piece of shit at the same time as the sons of whoever can be a piece of shit. Exactly. And it's kind of a false equivalency. Not quite, but it's the best term I can think of. A false equivalency. Like, the detractors in this group were bad, therefore all detractors are bad. Or, the detractors are bad, therefore Phil is good. That's not it. That's not mutually exclusive. Phil can be bad, and then the Sons of Kojima can also be bad. And a lot of people, even detractors, say the Sons of Kojima went too far, then that they were bad. So, it's just not a good argument for someone who is as toxic as Phil is.
I don't know. It's stuff like that where you might notice a lot of people that try to bring others down online, who try to talk bad about others online, you might notice that they try to act more morally correct than that person. I've seen that with myself online a whole bunch as well. I've had people call me a degenerate, a whole bunch of other stuff, saying I'm a bad person for basically no reason. It's just kind of
funny. It's because you're a furry. Like, let's be completely honest. I get it, you get it, all furries get it. Like, that's not even a thing. Knight says it's easy to be a bear person, Phil. Yeah, it's very easy.
And, I don't mind it at all. I don't mind what other people say about me. Sticks and stones and all that. It's just strange watching others try to be more morally correct as if they're on a moral high ground, a moral high horse. And then just for no reason, really. I mean, you're already making fun of somebody and you're already trying to bring somebody else down. Why are you trying to act like you're morally correct about it? Are you, trying to cover up something? Are you, And by the way, I'm not talking about anybody in specific here. I'm seriously just going on a tangent about just those kind of people as a whole. The group of people that I was talking about before, kind of irrelevant to what I'm talking about now. I wanted to bring them up before, just for the sake of it, because, like I said, people try to have a moral high ground over you. It's like they're trying to find any scrap of evidence of the other person doing something bad just so they can try to act morally superior to that person. They'll try to, find some kind of viewpoint that contradicts theirs and their biased beliefs. It's terrible, but we're going into a political territory now, so I'm not going to be talking about politics too much in this video.
I hope. Well, no, you shouldn't, because Phil's not involved with politics, so I don't know why you would even bring that up. So, Zern says, "Let's not use that tired and false phrase. Sticks and stones can break your bones, but words can destroy you." Well, especially in today's day and age, like a word in the right mouth to the right ear, and you're finished. Like, you're done. You're just a done person. But like, the whole like moral superiority argument, and again, this is another kind of Phil-ism. So I don't know. I'm leaning a little more towards this guy being a Dent, but it's still. But like, I don't like when people bring that one up, especially because it is people use it as a cloak. It's like trim board on a wall. It covers a lot of sins, a lot of mistakes. If you cut wrong on the top, or if you have I've been redoing my office, but like, so it's construction work, but it hides a lot of sins, a lot of flaws, because you put up something in front of it and, oh, that looks pretty. It's the same thing with what are you trying to hide if you're being morally superior? Fuck you. Nothing. Like, there's a lot of people are just doing it because they don't like Phil. And a lot of people don't have a moral superior. A lot of people are doing it just for the fucking lulz. Some people are doing it for money, and a couple people probably do hate Phil because he's a scumbag and a scammer. And, I'm kind of in the latter of those categories. But the whole, like, oh, you think you're better than Phil? Yes. Yes, I do. I am objectively better than Phil, Like, and maybe one day I'll find out, oh, he donates to Habitat for Humanity, or he gives all his time and money to charities, and he's, the greatest philanthropist? Whoa. Philanthropist on the face of the earth. I doubt it. And it's like, so the whole, what were you, like, nothing. Again, it's the whole mutually exclusive thing. Just because Phil's bad doesn't mean the people who are razzing him aren't also bad, but they still have a point. Stern says the right ear, or the right words in the right ear, or wrong ear, or even your very own ear. It's all about, it is time and delivery. That's true. Poofy said he did mention in the beginning about blue skies somehow related to. Oh, we skipped that part. That's probably it. We might have skipped because it was like all about Kiwi Farms. Like, I'm not here about Kiwi Farms. I'm here about fucking Phil. This is wrapping up though, so let's hear the end of the argument again. Though the whole the moral high ground argument, that's a straw man argument. That's a bullshit argument.
To be fair, I already mentioned Blue Sky before. If there's one thing I had to say to those that say the things they do about DSP, and probably some people are going to be saying the same things in the comments, asking why I'm defending him, saying that DSP can be hateful sometimes. I know he's the self-proclaimed king of hate. I think that's more so of a persona of his. But, you know, there are moments where he becomes upset, he becomes frustrated, he becomes emotional at times. And there's situations where he regrets the things that he says. And there's moments that might make you seem like he doesn't care about his viewers. There's
There are many, many moments where he doesn't care about his viewers. And also with the whole part about, like, he regrets what he says, point it out. Like, point out any time where he actually makes a meaningful apology about anything he said. And I'm not talking about the bullshit one they did because he got caught in 4K berating his chat and it left the vortex and hit some big streamers. And then he apologized to save face. Show me a time when he actually, the one time I think he was actually being genuine was when he got super fucking drunk. I think it was on his birthday stream, and then said he loved his wife. That one I could actually believe, and I think it's because his wife hates him. But that's an allegedly, a supposedly, or whatever the fuck he said. Knight says persona implies personality. Phil has none, not even a fake one. Well, and he's talking about, I think back in the day where, you know, the King of Hate moniker. So he was just playing at being. I mentioned this I think a couple videos ago actually. This thing where he's like, oh, that was old Phil. I like, this is real Phil. I'm like, no, old Phil was real Phil. It's just you've learned to curb your fucking more outrageous tendencies, your edginess, as it were. You know, and in my opinion, being a racist or playing as a racist is almost as bad, is not worse than being an actual racist. Because at least a racist is racist. Someone playing at a racist is just going to be a douchebag. You know, and not talking about like edgy humor or stuff like that. If someone's being like, because there's a couple times that it borders the line in the old stuff. Now, maybe it was taken out of context, I don't know. But at the very least, Phil's hate persona, that's him. That's just him. And if he's playing at being that kind of hated person and getting people to hate him, well, then he deserves all the hate he gets. And to say, oh, guys, that wasn't me. There were real people probably hurt by what he said. Should they be like, oh, it's just a bit? You know? Oh, well, then you're fine. You know? If I punch someone, it's like, it's just a bit, you know? And they go, oh, okay, well, all's forgiven. You know, it doesn't matter. I still caused the injury. You know? I still caused the harm to happen. Whether, you know, I hate the whole, like, it was just a prank, bro. Well, you still did something, you know? And you don't get the freedom of consequences by saying it's a joke. Now, some people don't care. Some jokes are worse than others. Some, you know, I don't want to go into, like, the semantics of who said what and this said this and, like, how racist was Phil, you know? But to try and be like, oh, he just put on a mask of that. And it's like, well, he put on the mask, which means he chose the mask. You know? He chose to have the racist mask. He chose to have the hate mask. So what does that say about him? If he was comfortable enough with that he was comfortable with, he should be comfortable with what he gets from it. You know, I always have a saying for myself. Now, you know, with what I create and stuff like that, I always have something for me where if I'm ashamed to do something, I will not do it. If there is something that I could do, but I would be shameful of that, I don't do it. Because at the end of the day, I have to sleep at night with myself and what I've done. And I don't want to push it off, even if it's just a persona, even if it's just something like that. I still have to sleep at night, knowing what I've done and who I've done things to. Knight says, yeah, it's cool. I just see my nose realigned, asshole, right? Ruckus says, I honestly think he'd be more popular if he went full hog into the King of Hate, if he could swallow his pride and be a heel. Or he could have made Keemstar numbers. I mean, in all honesty, from a performance aspect, probably. I think that's what the King of Casino were trying to do when they were doing stuff with him. Like, apparently they were trying to, you know, and of course, we won't actually know the truth because Phil says one thing, they say another thing, but they were trying to get him to lean into that, and in all honesty, he probably could have made Mad Bank. if he leans into the trolls, if he leaned into being the asshole, if he leaned into all that stuff, he probably could make mad bank, in all honesty. And if he gave a I give no fucks, a lot of his detractors would probably be like, oh, well, he's not bothered by it. Why should I? In all honesty, it would be a much better career path for him than what he's doing right now. But he gets so butthurt over every just little thing, every little like criticism. He couldn't handle it. His head would probably explode. All right, let's get this one finished up. We're almost an hour.
It's that one infamous quote he made where he's, quote unquote, thanking his viewers for the views and everything, which is most likely taken out of context. I personally don't remember what the original context was, but there are.
He had a whole website called The King of Hate, my dude. Like it wasn't like, oh, he said king and hate in the same sentence. Like that was his literal moniker for like all the way up in, I think, through like until he started doing actual live streaming. I don't know like the exact date. This is way before my time, but
moments where he genuinely does get upset, and I just think that a whole lot of people don't really have forgiveness in their hearts, and at the end of the day, don't we all act the same way he does? Don't we all say
absolutely not? Like, are you kidding me? Like, if you measure anyone up against Darkside Phil is going to come up short every single time. Unless you're getting like actual like real scumbags. Like other lol cows, okay, now you might have like, something you could do there, but like what is this like, aren't we all like this? No. In fact, I usually am pretty generous about like if I'm getting commission work and stuff like that and making sure people are okay and stuff, as like that is just the wildest statement we probably heard. Zerg says, how the fuck can you attempt to defend somebody and constantly be missing so much context? Well, that's why I bashed him on that before with the Suns thing. But yeah, like, it's very wishy-washy. I don't even think it's rage baiting because it's done so ineffectively. There's like, there are some moments you could put up that you probably could get like some decent, especially from like detractors. Like if I wanted to like LARP as a Phil Dent and make a video like this, I could probably get all the hatred. Like I could probably get everyone to be like, this guy sucks and we hate him. Like this is like, oh, this guy is like not informed about anything. Like he honestly could have watched the June the King documentary and had much better arguments than the one he's putting up. So I don't know. Like, is he a Phil Dent? Is he a tourist? I'm between like Phil Dent, who is just one of those like they come by every so often and throw money, and just a tourist. And a tourist who might be trying to like do something for clout or do something for views or something like that. I don't even think it's a rage bait. I think it's just a clout chase. Could be.
The same things he does sometimes? Isn't it only natural that we say and do the same things that Phil does at times?
Oh shit. Well,
before the video begins,
that was it. No outro, just a fucking final thoughts Springer style. Ruckus says he could watch Turkey Tom, God forbid, right? I mean, there's so many documentaries about Darkside Phil, especially in like the last couple of years. Like I don't know, like is this rage? Like a couple I've seen on the internet, a couple people say this is just rage bait, this is just clickbait. Oh, Zurin's got an interesting theory. Maybe he's friends with Phil's pet dragon. Is that true? Do you know Darziak? The time liturgy? All I can think of with his name is Key Lime Pie. How to drain your dragon. Oh, that's a good one. I like that one. I still kind of think that Bookworm is Darziak. I can't prove it. It's just a gut feeling. After that Slay the Spire 2 stream, I feel it in my bones. But it could be. I mean, for some reason, furries get attracted to Darkside Phil, and I can kind of understand it. Furries as a community have I've always said, furries have a big heart and are bad with money. And I mean, we have the whole furry economy, for fuck's sake, man. Like, it's just, like Stalking Tiger and Darziak and all them. I don't bring them up too often because it's just, you know, a dent's a dent. It's like I don't bring up Jack Raxer. I bring up LGG, but it's because he's a troll. So, you know, I don't feel bad because he's trolling, I'm trolling. You know, it's back and forth. But yeah, when it comes to furries, like I don't understand why it's always fucking furries that glom onto Darkside Phil. Darziak, Stalking Tiger. I think who was it that came out too? Or that they found out was I can't. There's another one, like two or three other ones that have they found. It's like it's always like a dolphin that does it. Zern says, think he makes his dragon friend wear denim. Oh, that way he can squeeze the dragon's banana. He's never gonna fucking live that down. Um, Zern says, and furries are dumb and or oblivious. Yeah, no, not wrong. Ruckus says, no offense, but a lot of dented people are furries. Not saying furries are dense, but dents are furries. Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I actually agree with that. And again, it's one of the reasons I do what I do, and I've done it with like Dark Side Phil, and the other ones are kind of more for the lulls, but like I especially do it for Dark Side Phil as kind of a PSA. And, you know, like I said, big hearts, bad with money, kind of easily manipulable, and it's a lot. I feel like, and I'm going to like parasocial or not parapsychology and stuff like that, which I'm not obviously trained on or have any. It's just my experience in the fandom. Is that we're all kind of outcasts and loners by nature. So when someone offers us, especially if they kind of haven't really like glommed on to the furry community, or they're kind of, even if like the community hasn't adjusted to them, they'll try and find acceptance anywhere. And Phil, again, is an emotionally manipulative bastard. So the most common type of people to fall into that trap are outcasts. So, you know, and if you're a furry and you're a DSP supporter, if you want that kind of stuff, come on over here. Just come on over here. I don't even want your money. Just come on over. We'll talk. We'll have some laughs. You know, I'm not like most of the detractors where, like, if you give money to Phil, you're a dent and you're always a dent and you'll forever be a dent. If you truly repent from the DSP and, you know, want to seek salvation in the light of detractorism, I don't know, I should have thought that through. But, like, I will, you know, just come on over. Just come on over. You know, like, Zern says Phil will accept you, just give him a tip or a tip. That's true. That's true. You know, and there's a reason why Darziak was probably his, you know, the main editor. I wouldn't be surprised if the others were too. Ruckus says, also, I don't think furries are more gravitated towards Phil, but the furries who are get springboarded by detractors, like they're easier targets. That is true. I will say this, as a furry detractor, I have gotten quite a few comments. I've gotten quite a few comments. I'll just say that they were not nice. Do I care? No, because I'm 40 and a furry and I've heard it all. I've seen it all. I don't give a shit. But like, you know, for someone who's 28 or 20, you know, like a younger furry especially, and you know, they're like, who's Phil? And it's like, ew, a furry. It's like, I could see that. I could definitely see that. And again, another reason why this is here. You know, and I offer, for the Saber Wolf Cafe is open to detractors of all kinds. I don't give a shit, you know. Just don't be, you know, an outright terrible person, and we'll get along. But like, you know, it is, you know, the detractor community does kind of have like some work for that. Knight says just make sure to paint your tips yellow so he can see it. Oh boy, yeah, he's got to make sure you. Again, we came up with that theory that Phil can only like Phil's yellow paint fixation and the banana and denim are linked together because of that. Like he had to have the yellow on the dick so he could actually find it, and therefore bananas. Ruckus says Kino Casino did more for Phil's career than any dent or detractor, and we've forgiven them. I mean, yeah, like I think like they've been doing better than ever from what I've seen when, I'm actually able to see them. Like they with especially with their DSP segments, like the detractors love the Kino Casino. I enjoy their fill segments. It's one of their best segments, but I'm kind of biased. So like it's I could see it, and I think, and I'm not expecting detractors to suddenly open their arms to the furry community. I'm not going to expect that, nor do I, you know, petition for it. But if you want Phil to have less support, that's maybe the enemy of my enemy is my friend, as it were. And not even just me. Otherwise, whatever. I will say that I want to make this perfectly clear too. I've interacted with other detractors who are super cool. I don't want to paint this as like, oh, like the detractors are all anti-furries. Like they're I've gotten a couple comments, and they're like, oh man, like this was great, this was the best, and I'm like, hell yeah, let's fucking do it. And like, or what a treat, a VTuber going up against another VTuber with the IDubbbz thing. So I don't want to like paint the like, oh, they're all fucking, they're furry haters and stuff like that. So, and again, I don't give a shit. So like it's all cool, it's all good. I'm gonna keep detracting against Phil. You guys keep detracting against Phil. If we have to do it separate, that's great. If we do it together, that's cool. But stuff like this, it's really a nothing. And the comments, I have to say, were crazy. Oh, there are a lot of furry detractors. I don't get furry detractors on my timeline. I've even like looked. Wait, like furry detractors for Phil or furry detractors in general? Now I'm actually let me end this video like first, because now we're kind of shooting the shit with my chat. If you like what you saw here, please make like a werewolf and like and subscribe. I very much appreciate if you made it to the end here. That is very cool of you. I very much appreciate it, and hope to see you in the next one.